Hello rat bags, it's Jade with the survival news. Yes guys, got loads to cover today from some of the big hitters, including No Man's Sky Desolation update has just gone live. Even more free content for this game. Other game developers take note how to keep your communities involved. Also going over the latest with ARK on Xbox and PlayStation. You would have received an update last night. What did it contain and what have you got to look forward to? Atlas also has a sneak peek of stuff coming in today. Also, could they be forgetting about PlayStation 4 and going to PS5 when Atlas does eventually come to Sony? And last, Oasis has updated the game again, adding more content to their lava brand new map biomes. Stranded Deep has another big update incoming. They've just put it on the experimental PC servers. What's in that and what can you expect? And I'm going to be going over some stuff to do with 7 Days to Die, why the petition is gathering support and why the moderators on the forums really don't like anyone discussing it, with the news that they're threatening to shut down the console sections on the forums. Plus, what I'll be covering in the next few weeks, hopefully we're going to get some news about Drake Hollow. We've got Grounded coming up, really enjoying that game. And then in the future, we've got Windbound. That's another little game I'm excited for. So help the channel out. Make sure you like the video, make sure you're subscribed, and really get all the information about survival, open world games, and occasionally some off-topic stuff. But make sure you got the notification bell on. Let's go. It's all here. It's the Survival Show. So ARK Survival Evolved got an update on consoles last night and it's pretty much keeping up to date with PC. A lot of bug fixes, but also more importantly, lots to do with cheating. They've fixed multiple undermesh exploits, exploits to block turret fire, server crashes, and a lot more. So that's why you got a 9 gig update on Ps4, I do believe, last night. On top of that, there is big plans for more quality of life stuff coming in the future. ZED has started the quality of life catalogue back up again. And they're looking to add a bunch of new features. So if you've got any feedback, go and leave it on the Twitter page or actually input it on the actual page itself. Remember, the Summer Bash event has also been extended because there were problems getting it launched. You can see a lot of this stuff has now been either archived, pretty much saying they're not going to be changing it, or that it's simply something that they need maybe a bit more work on. Here's all the new stuff. Everyone's been weighing in with what they think ARK needs. So if you really want to help ARK Survival Evolved improve, go and put in some suggestions. It's going to be a dry old time for ARK in the next few weeks. We've got nothing going on really until the console launch of the Crystal Isles, and that's not going to be happening until September. And other than some announcements recently about the sponsored mod program, really is a bit of a dry time. Hence why I'm not going to be covering it much, and why Kaya is also going to be covering other games too. That said, Kaya will be doing a showcase of the brand new Vikings mod. Expect to see that up on Sunday this weekend. It's another great mod from one of the best mod makers out there. And if you somehow missed it, Kaya also showcased 2 mods that have just been gone into the sponsored mod program. Tiamat, the Water Ark, plus TLC Hoarders, which pretty much revisits a lot of the creatures and puts new models on them and gives them new abilities. So go and check that video out if you haven't seen it as well. So Atlas is trying to carry on reviving itself. They promised that they would have new structures coming soon, and one of them would be a farmhouse. So this update's meant to be going live, I do believe, next week. And this is part of it. It's the brand new farmhouse. It pretty much means it's going to gather resources. So not like taxable resources where you put stuff in the vault. That's what normally happens. You put a vault down or you got the bank, and players that are harvesting, if they're not part of your tribe, they give you some of the resources back. This is just about it doing it automatically on its own so that you guys can get out there and actually have more fun on the water. A bit worryingly that this is concept art they're showing and they can't even show off the actual in-game stuff, especially if they're meant to be updating it next week. I don't understand the reasoning behind that. Don't get me wrong, I love this kind of gear, but it does seem a little bit strange that you're having an update and yet you still can't show the in-game item as a preview. If anyone ever played the Survival Plus mod ages ago, where it would have prefab buildings, where in my opinion they got a lot of the ideas for Atlas. It does very much look like the windmill set that was in that game, but with maybe a pirate's flag being added. On top of that, they're saying that you'll now be able to buy ships with gold. So if you want to get back into the fight, if you've just been wiped, if you've got a surplus of gold, you'll be able to buy lots more choices. It won't just be the start ships, you will be able to maybe buy yourself a brigantine. They also did a Q&A last weekend as well. And in it they stress that they want to make the game more about being a pirate, less being about ARK. So that's why they've got things like this farm which you can just pop down and it will gather resources for you. Also for PS4 owners, someone asked whether or not it's coming. When they first launched Atlas, they did say it would come to the PlayStation 4 in the future, but because PlayStation don't have an early access program, it wouldn't be at launch. And of course, the Xbox version ended up coming out about, 10 months after the PC version. So yeah, chance of seeing it on PlayStation may be actually a bit slim in terms of the current generation. As in this reply, they state that they haven't decided whether or not they're going to bother with this gen or bring it straight out onto the next PlayStation 5. That would be an interesting proposition, for them not to put the game out on the PS4 and just literally sidestep it. Obviously with Xbox, a lot of their games are being multi-made for both platforms, and it's obviously on the Xbox One already. But yeah, it'd be super interesting if they end up pretty much not doing it. Then again, time-wise, I really can't see them putting it out on PlayStation until maybe the end of next year. That may seem like a long time away, but honestly, I just don't think the game is anywhere near close to a finished experience. There's so many features that they said would go into it when they first started, and we've heard nothing about that. You're originally meant to have your own babies and put your characters into your heirs. There's just so much missing from Atlas. It is definitely a game still in very much need of a lot of work. They also stress that they're not planning to do any more wipes, but they can't rule it out, and they're not making it a seasonal thing, as currently they're in Season 4 is what they're calling it. They don't really plan to do it, it's only when necessary. So No Man's Sky Desolation has gone live. Scavenge, survive in the haunted wreckage of a derelict freighters with the Desolation update. Proceed to generate freighters, more story content, combat improvements and freighter customization. No Man's Sky is also 50% off across all platforms at the moment as well. That's pretty big news. So the derelict freighters are going to be abandoned. It's meant to give you this vibe of alien isolation, going through dark corridors. As you can see from the trailer, you've got turrets that can shoot at you, as well as maybe some alien life. You can get specific coordinates to find them, so you're not just floating around, otherwise you will find them randomly occasionally. Each one of these derelict interiors is randomly generated, so it's going to be a different challenge, a different experience every time, and it just looks great. Another piece of free content from the makers of No Man's Sky. Looks like there's drones as well as the turrets that will hunt you down. It looks like it's a really good challenge, and of course more alien life. So yeah, really want to give this a go. I may boot it up soon. Each freighter is going to have its own unique story. You'll have crew members' ship logs that you can retrieve and personal effects, and you need to gain access to the captain's log for insight into the vessel's final hours. Also, they've improved the bloom effects on the game too, so it's not going to necessarily be as bright and hurting your eyes. Good call. So you can see it really does look pretty interesting, making it all a little bit more vibrant. They've also changed the lens flare on it as well, so a bunch of improvements here. Lots of new lighting effects, and you can salvage freighter technologies. These are going to be new stuff that you can do with your freighter. You can permanently improve the abilities of your frigates, and freighter upgrades are no longer restricted to the technology inventory. You can install them in a general freighter inventory as well. You can add brand new modules to the freighters, get additional inventory space, and you can customize your freighters a lot more now as well with paint. It's all looking really good. You can also now teleport directly into your freighter, as they've added that ability too. And they reckon they've improved the combat mechanics as well, making it more fast paced, more dynamic and more satisfying. If you do something to piss the drones off, they're going to call in more reinforcements a lot quicker. They'll also have more in numbers. They've added a bunch of new titles to the game as well for players, new Nexus missions. It's just a load of good stuff here. Obviously lots of patches and bugs fixed as well. Great stuff, No Man's Sky, keep it up. Literally one of the best supported games out there. Stranded Deep has got a new update for PC, and I know console players are still desperate for maybe some of the features to come from PC to console, like being able to at least play split screen. In this new build on the experimentals, it's going to take a long time before it hits console. They've expanded the current world to twice the size. I ain't gonna lie, this is slightly annoying because I swear I only just deleted the actual experimental session. The new world's going to have more randomly positioned islands, no more fixed 5x5, and don't worry, you won't lose your progress. It's going to auto update your progress or your save data to a new big world format. That's some pretty good stuff. Big criticism Stranded Deep is that it is over pretty quickly. They've also made changes as well. During the end game on console, you get the aircraft parts by completing the boss fights. I've shown you guys how to do that. I've shown you the ending of Stranded Deep, so you go and check that video out. But now they're making it so it's craftable instead. I think a lot of people were complaining that sometimes if something went wrong, you would lose them parts and you wouldn't actually be able to escape. Other than that, they're promising more bug fixing and a lot more stuff. Remember, this is experimental, so they'll be doing a lot more on this for the next couple of weeks. Then I'm sure it will go into the brand new game, and then we'll get it on console, probably not for around 2 months. I know that again sounds like a long time, but based on current progress and some of the stuff that still hasn't been implemented from the last one, that's what I'm going to say. So don't expect a bigger world for Stranded Deep on console just yet. I do believe it's going to be around 2 months at least. I hope I'm wrong on that. As soon as I get any more info, I'll give you guys the download. So Last Oasis is a game that I really enjoyed when it came out. I thought it could have the answer to so many PvP problems, not being offline raided, making it more fun and engaging to raid other players, and I just found the concept really great. Unfortunately though, it was early access, there were some issues, and the player base started to dwindle, and interest in the views in videos wasn't really there as much. There was so much competition around PvP games. You've got Rust, you've got ARK, you've got Conan, and they may all be very different genres, but they still take up quite a lot of people's time. So since I stopped covering it as much, the updates that have been coming, I haven't really covered much in detail. So I think I'm probably going to revisit it. The newest and biggest update they've just added adds a whole bunch of info about where they're going to be going next. They're adding new gas masks into the game. They've got part 2 of their volcanic roadmap that they've got, volcanic update I should say, and they've got a roadmap sort of talking about what they're going to go through the future. I really like the effort they're putting into it. They've got a question and answer session here that's massive. You compare it to the one I did on ARK a little bit earlier and showed you guys. I mean, Atlas, it was only like what, 3 questions? They've got about 15, and they're all really good questions. They're not trying to swerve anything. They're all really interesting. So a big hand clap for them trying to do a little bit better with their community management and making sure that this kind of stuff gets delivered. So while the game still has issues and while it may be a bit light in content sometimes, I still really have a lot of faith in them that they're going to turn this game into something big. So yeah, lots of content to come. Like I said, I will revisit this very soon, but hopefully we'll be able to maybe get back into it again and revisit some PvP action. The crux of it today is though that they have got a brand new update that just went live today, and it adds some more features, more items to craft for their lava biome, and just a whole bunch more. We're only like 10 or 12 days away before the Grounded game comes out. I've been showing you guys stuff every single day. I have got access to some of the content that we may or may not see at launch, as it looks like some of it's not finished yet. I've been trying not to show too much off, and there's definitely some spoilers I'm going to be keeping till full release. But the developers have put a brand new vlog out showcasing the building possibilities, and I love it when they do this. This is a really good idea. Don't rely on schmuck YouTubers to do some of this for you. Make sure you are communicating about how your game's going to work. I'm really hoping Drake Hollow start doing something like this as well. That's another game that I just haven't seen enough of in recent times. But yeah, it's all just talking about crafting. But one of the big things I can see is they've really made a big effort to make some big old structures. Take a look at these bases they've been building. Just look at the size of that. It reminds me of the big barns that you find in Ark Survival Evolved. Just huge, massive, big warehouses to put as many mushroom beds in as you want. It's really cool stuff. Loving Grounded. It's got to be one of the best games I've played in a long time. In terms of survival, just no bugs, no issues, pardon the pun. And just look at what the different types of places you can build or what things you can make. So I've got my own little build video actually I was working on, showcasing how I've built a couple little bases, and that'll be coming soon. But I love the look of this. I love the fact you can build some tree houses too. It's all really cool stuff. So yeah, I'm going to be all over that, and I will still carry on trying to make as much content from now before release of Grounded, coming out on 28th of July. So Drake Hollow, I do believe, was meant to come out on the 17th of July, but they had some last minute problem, and it looks like it's taken them a while to get it right. Since then, they haven't actually got a release date for it again. But I'm really hoping we get some news soon. I'd love to see a little bit more activity on some of their tweets and stuff and what's going on. Definitely another survival game you need to check out. Something a bit more different, a little bit more cuter than normal. But it's definitely got some dark vibes. I loved it when I played it. This and Grounded, when they both come out, are going to be some of my main content for a while. And yep, another little pixel style cute game. Windbound, another survival game that I've showcased and talked about a lot in the past. They've been doing a great job showing off little bits and bobs about what you can expect on their Twitter page. Everything from how you can improve your boat with accessories. You can see all the kind of different items they've got involved. So I probably will do a bit more in-depth video next week, taking a look at all this information, delivering it in one nice, easy experience. Some of the resources, some of the stuff that you're going to find out in the world. and new creatures, how you can actually hunt, and what tools and weapons you'll be using. So yeah, great stuff for that. That's also coming out at the end of August. So you guys know I've been hard at it trying to raise awareness about what's going on with 7 Days to Die and the console situation. You guys have been smashing it with the amount of petition signatures we've got. I recently did a live stream where I went over some of the replies from the moderators and we spoke about some of the stuff before I tried playing the game on the server on the PC, but there were some problems with it. So we will be back and we'll be taking more of a look at Alpha 19 soon. But we are up to 2,300 signatures now. You guys are smashing it, you're leaving lots of comments, really good to see. Now the forums, there is a very big heated discussion going on. Now I've shown this off before. I told you guys that some of the moderators are a bit reasonable. They can talk to you. Roland seems to have been a little bit better than he used to be. And he is managed to maybe have a talk and trying to talk about stuff in a more reasonable way. But also fighting his corner and stressing that the fun pimps have kind of done everything they can. Whereas another moderator, Silent Thunder, is just a bit of a jackass. After having a disagreement about how much it costs to actually update and get maybe a console port done, he seems to think it's going to cost 10 million. Don't think any game would ever be made on console if it costs that much. Not from an indie developer anyway, or just for a port job. And big shout out to the rat bags who are fighting the calls. And really shouldn't be fighting. I'd like to have a proper discussion with the moderators. But they seem hell bent on dismissing and shutting down people just for wanting to talk and get some answers. But the one that really got my goat up and really angered me, so I sent some lengthy replies, even if I may have got a few bits wrong myself, is that we are being threatened with it all being shut down and that they may even remove console from the forum. You guys are just here to argue. You aren't really bringing anything useful to the discussion anymore. I'm tempted just to shut the whole console section down completely. But as you are aware, that would be a huge disservice to the community that still cares. Well, newsflash, I am pretty much the one lone voice actually still talking about this, whereas most 7 Days to Die YouTubers, even if they started out on console, they don't give a monkey's rat's arse what goes on with console players anymore, as they don't really say anything publicly and they certainly don't make any videos about it. Apparently, Cilia Mod is well aware that the assets ran to 10 million for 7 Days to Die. Nowhere is that found. No one has given any information. In fact, I've spoken to journalists, gaming journalists, who couldn't get the totals of what was on offer. And from all accounts, what I heard, bearing in mind I looked into this for nearly 2 years, is that the asset sale that was there, the auction, was selling a lot of properties. But the rights actually reverted back to the fun pimps, and they simply had to pay legal fees. Now, I could be wrong on that, I could be. They have made a statement here, and it seems to be flashing on top of the forum posts. So clearly we're doing something, as this has only just been added, but it's literally revisiting the statement they put out in October last year. I think the moderators have kind of lost track a little bit of why I'm doing this, why I'm trying to jump up some support. I really didn't expect them to say yes, they're going to update the current generation. I did give some suggestions and ways they could make some money, but what I really wanted to get across was what happens to players that have already bought the game for the next gen. And that's the big component. If you've missed it, they've said they're going to release possibly 7 Days to Die on the next gen and hoping to get crossplay with PC, but it may end up being a new game. And I just don't think it's right that current console owners would have to pay for another game once more. Yes, there are precedents. You look at things like Rockstar with GTA, and yes, you look at games like Skyrim. But that was from generation going to a different generation where the CPUs, the GPUs, everything else was just massive changes. But this generation to the next really isn't as big as some people are trying to make out. Hence why so many of the games you're playing on your Xbox will be able to be backwards compatible. Lots of developers are making it that the games are smart delivery. You can play it on the PS4, you can play it on the PS5. It just doesn't matter. So it doesn't really matter when or how they look at updating the game. They could start work on it now and simply transition it over to the next gen. And if they're running out of money, they could do some of the things that I said, which is sell some skins as a pre-order, generate some money, and see what happens. But yeah, there's definitely some wrong information coming from the moderators, and I'm pretty sure there's probably more information coming from me and some of the other guys that argue in our case. But when a moderator seems to think that the sales of 7 Days to Die on console were actually making a loss, I think he's probably in cuckoo land. He also seems to think it costs out this world money to publish on Xbox and PlayStation. It really doesn't. Yes, they take a cut. They take 30%. But that's it. That is all they take. So any money after that, you have to just pay the porting team. So yeah, I really do think some of their mods should take a step back. We are allowed to talk about stuff. They shut down the last forum post talking about all this kind of stuff in the past. And if they do it again, I really may start kicking up a fuss. Maybe it's time to bring a campaign out into the social media a little bit more. Maybe I need to start contacting some of my journalist friends and see if they can maybe look into it and do a few stories. Ultimately, I want the developers to come out with some clear statements of intent, exactly what will happen if it does come out on the next generation, what happens to every player that's spent money on the game already, and why they can't look at some of the suggestions I've said. That may sound like a lot coming from just some low-rate YouTuber, but I am speaking on behalf of you guys, and that's what I've always done. I'd be glad to do some sort of interview or podcast with them as well. I might even try sending them an email. I really don't want to argue with developers, but I refuse to believe that they have acted and done everything in the right manner. There have been many other instances where other developers have come good. What happens when the game comes out next gen? They're probably going to get a backlash of negativity. Yes, people will buy it, but unless they start actually treating the console crowds, who there are thousands playing every single day, a little bit better, they may find this situation will come back to bite them on the arse unless they can actually find some common ground. Talking about the console situation once or twice in over 20 different streams promoting their latest PC update is not what I would call addressing the situation. It requires a brand new post, or it requires a tailor-made stream. Just some ideas, devs, if you're watching. So there we go, guys, lots of stuff going on my channel. Just an FYI, yes, I am doing more open world news. I will be covering games like Watch Dogs Legion and Assassin's Creed Valhalla because I'm pretty interested in them. I'm really excited about Biomutant though as well, and yeah, Cyberpunkers too. I think they go well with the survival genre, but it doesn't mean I'm stopping survival. Instead though, what I will be doing is concentrating less on the boring little bits of the games that you guys don't really play. There are literally hundreds of survival games, and sometimes I do cover little hotfixes in games like Deadside where they add maybe some new weapons, or even talking about hotfixes for games like Citadel Forge of Fire. But at the end of the day, how entertaining is it? How newsworthy is it for a lot of you guys who are pretty much console crowd? Do you really need to hear about games like these just getting small updates? So instead, I'm going to focus more on when the big updates come, talking about the stuff and showcasing more of that stuff better. So more actual previews and reviews and overviews of the actual updates, rather than necessarily just talking about some of them and cutting out basically some of the more, I'm going to say it, crapper games. Games that definitely need a lot more work, or they're at the very start of their journey into being maybe something big and good. And that will free up a bit more time for me to cover open world games, as well as do my survival let's plays on games like Grounded and things like Windbound as well, and obviously Drake Hollow, which I'm interested in. And it does also mean I can do a bit more live streaming. Kyra on Fire is still going to help me out though, and she will definitely be more leaning towards the survival stuff. So if there is any big new content for games like ARK, she's going to be covering it, but I will be back once we get some actual proper console news about Crystal Isles coming to Xbox and PlayStation, and the future of ARK in terms of the Gen 2 DLC. So yeah, just a brief little extra channel update. So until next time, Ratbags, I will see you for another survival news. Gonna aim to do one of these big ones at least once a week, but with always other smaller looks at some of the survival games every day, especially new ones coming out like I've shown you guys recently. Anywho, that's about it for today's survival show. I'll be back next week with another one. Lots of good looks at new stuff coming in. And this weekend, hopefully, I've got more coming from Ghost of Tsushima. I'll be covering that in a big way. And hopefully some more Grounded content and that look at the Viking mods from Kaya. Until next time, Ratbags, laters.